Hello, my name is Jason Drury and welcome once again to Talking Soundtracks on the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast. Jeff Beal is a prolific composer who scored hundreds of films and series including House of Cards, Rome, Carnivàle and Monk, as well as films Pollock and Appaloosa, as well as numerous acclaimed documentaries. His recent project is the new symphonic score for the 1927 silent film classic Metropolis, widely regarded as one of the most influential films ever made. In addition, the 5-time Emmy Award winner has recently scored the Peacock Universal series All Her Fault, starring Sarah Snook, creating an ever dark and ominous backdrop to the high-tension thriller series based on the novel by Andrea Mara. In April 2026, for the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast, I had the pleasure of talking to Jeff about both scores via Zoom from a composers' summit in Prague, where he was due to premiere his score for Metropolis live to picture, conducting the Czech National Symphony Orchestra the following day. During the show, as well as hearing music from All Our Fault, you will also be hearing exclusive clips from Jeff's score for Metropolis, kindly sent down by the composer himself, which is due to be released sometime in 2027. Jeff Beal, welcome to Talking Soundtracks.
Thank you, Jason. It's good to be with you.
First of all, let's talk about your new score for Metropolis. How did that come about?
Well, I watched the movie about 3 years ago. I was looking for a film to end what had become a trilogy of German silent movies. I did Sunrise for L.A. Master Chorale. I did The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And the idea was for me that this was a trilogy, so I needed to find the finale to this. And someone suggested Metropolis. I don't think I've ever really seen the film, so I put it in and immediately sort of just was drawn to it. It has a scale and a visual style that is so epic and in a strange way feels incredibly relevant to our modern life, even though this is a film which, next year will have its 100th anniversary. It's made in 1927. There's a robot in the movie. It's really a film about a lot of things, but one of them is this sort of idea of this anxiety of what then was really the Industrial Revolution, this idea of sort of the dehumanization of working class and sort of the man versus machine, and this whole idea of technology being a thing that dehumanizes us. And that was a very powerful theme. And I just thought, wow, this feels like it could really be an interesting film to write a score for, and also hopefully an interesting film to hopefully bring to a new generation of people. I find that when you put a new score that's really written to our sensibilities to a film that really is classic, it takes it out of its time period. I don't treat this as a museum piece. I really want people to get lost in the story and enjoy it and have fun with the mystery and the suspense and the action. And there's a great sort of Wagnerian love story. And, I just felt like it had all these elements. I will confess also that I love late romantic, early 20th century music. I love Wagner, especially Mahler symphonies I love, Second Viennese School. So there's the whole Germanness of the whole thing. The whole European kind of sensibility in the film really spoke to me. Also, it really is an amazing piece of filmmaking in terms of a really early example of what became the genre known as science fiction. I mean, the way in which they sort of helped you to suspend disbelief and believe you were somehow in the future. There's robots and there's actually screens. There's the one great scene where he has what looks like a Skype or a FaceTime call, and that didn't exist then, but they imagined that it could happen. So there's flying cars. This whole idea of the city is this sort of world of the future. I think about films like Blade Runner, for example, or films like that sort of had this dystopian imagined future. This is a metaphor, I think, which modern life has often given us as a setting to explore some of these themes.
Metropolis has been rescored a couple of times apart, as well as the original score for the film. Have you heard any other attempts of scoring Metropolis? I think I particularly remember the Giorgio Moroder's tried to score it.
Yeah, I listened to the Marauder score, and it was very interesting, and very different film because he actually was able to cut it down and edit it in a certain specific way. And the version I watched was the restoration of the original score, which I believe Frank Strobel kind of reconstructed and recorded. So I saw the original German score. I know there's probably some other scores, but I haven't seen them. But I liked what those scores did. In a way, my score is sort of a combination of those two things. I mean, I did use some electronics in my score, but certainly they certainly weren't front and center like in the Marauder score. My score is much more of a symphonic driven score, but it's written with a sensibility that's a little more towards a more contemporary film score style, I think, in a lot of ways. But I also used some of the electronics combined with it. I also felt like the love story had a very certain tone, very specific tone, which I never really felt in any of the scores I watched. And I love looking at characters' eyes, and especially the woman who played Maria. She's got such a captivating face. There's a scene where you meet her down in this catacomb, and she's sort of giving this kind of sermon or whatever, and she's just this a very powerful figure, almost like the sacred feminine or something. I felt like the mythology of who she was really fascinating, and I wanted to give her a voice in the film with a very specific type of music, which hopefully I succeeded at.
How many themes did you compose for Metropolis?
Several. The film really opens. One of the real main characters in the film is the city itself. Fritz Lang said that it was really seeing New York City in the early 20th century that inspired the look. They call the machine in sort of in the underworld that powers the city the heart machine. So in a way, the whole first 6 or 7 minutes of the film was just sort of this constant motion of counterpoint that starts in the violins, and it sort of grows and grows and grows. So there's the theme of the city. There's obviously Maria and Freder's theme. The inventor, Rotwang, is a great character. This kind of crazy guy who actually has created the robot. He gets his own theme. It's a contrabassoon and a bassoon duet. So those are some of the main themes. And of course, the last theme is for the robot. It is science fiction, and it's very fun, and it's sort of got some of what I would call the steampunk retro kind of electronics. But it's also got this sense of mystery and wonderment, because I really wanted to believe, even when you first see that robot move, that we really believe this is alive. This is somehow a machine, but also has this, it's already sort of been personified in some sort of human way. And, it's so strange how real this is to, I mean, we see these robots being built now, and I mean, they've made robots that can walk and dance and serve drinks and conduct orchestras and, play tennis, and it's kind of strange. And a lot of them sort of have these humanoid characteristics. They have limbs that look like arms and legs, and they have heads. And so there's something very odd about a machine that looks like a human, even now to us. And so we almost immediately sort of personify those things as somehow living sentient creatures. And so I think that's part of the reason the design always goes towards that, because it's somehow in the brain that actually is able to associate that form as we see it, which looks humanoid, as somehow sentient. And I think that's part of the strong mythology of the movie, is this idea of what makes a human. Is it the physicality? Is it the limbs? Or is it something inside? Is it the heart? Which is, of course, the last line of the film, the hands and the heart.
Yes, and yes, these days there were even one marathons I noticed on the news recently in China. I think it's a half marathon they did, if I remember right.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to see that.
It was very strange, very weird, and also a little bit scary in some ways.
Yeah.
Now, what size orchestra did you compose for Metropolis, and was there any additional instrumentation you used for the music for the score?
Yeah, I wrote for a big orchestra. It's a big symphony orchestra, triple woodwinds, 3 or 4 percussionists, harp, no piano. So that was the basic orchestration. It's sort of like what you'd think of as a Mahler size orchestra, maybe, or a Wagner size orchestra if it was an opera orchestra. So it's got sort of all the bells and whistles of big symphonic score.
Mhm.
But I also created some electronics that come along at certain points in the movie. So those I all created those pre-records, and they sort of enter into the texture at certain times, and sometimes they even take over. The orchestra takes a break, and the electronics take over the film for a while, and sort of gives it a chance to breathe. I mean, one of the challenges of writing this is, this is 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it's very easy to fatigue the listener. So part of what I was working with and struggling with was how do I sustain and justify the listener's interests and investment over such a long time frame.
How long did it take you to write the score, and did you tackle it in a different way to what you would usually do with normal film and television projects?
Yeah, it's funny. I like to write chronologically, Jason. It helps me track the story. I'm actually really glad that I had a long process. I wrote the first draft probably over 2 years ago. And so really I had a first draft, which I wrote more or less chronologically, act by act. But one of the most valuable parts of the writing process for me, I think, has been the last year where I sort of went back and really fine-tuned the variations of themes that recur, and also just trying to make the texture of the orchestration varied enough so that it feels like it's not always repeating. It's not always in the same space. It's almost like if you're walking through a building and you spend it like you're walking through an art gallery, you're in a room full of paintings and you're looking around and you're enjoying this all. Then you go into another room and the landscape's completely different. Try to do that several times through the film so that you have different experiences orally that hopefully the listener is in a different space. I think one of the most interesting sections on that level was the last part of the film, like the last 25 minutes of the film is this sort of relentless cavalcade of motion. The city is being destroyed, the water is flooding, Maria is running for her life, robot Maria is being chased and strung up on a pole to be burned. All the stops are being pulled out, but it goes on for such a long time. And so when I got to that section, I really tried to play against the expectation in a few places, play more lyrically, even though the motion was felt like an action film. I also had some sections where I just let the electronics really drive it. There's a part of this film where the sort of mob takes over, and against their better instincts and really against their own interests, they start to destroy the city, which is really not a good thing to do. And you can draw a great parallel to the politics right now in the U.S., for example, where leaders sometimes egg people on and try to stir up controversy and hatred, and people get all fired up, and at a certain point they don't realize why they're angry even. It's that sort of madness. It's sort of, or I think there's a great investing book. It's something I forget the first part of the title, but the last part of the title is The Madness of Crowds. And that's a lot of the ways markets work on either side. Everybody gets way too manic and they buy, and then when they sell, it's a panic. As emotions, as humans, we often sometimes go to the extremes of emotional peaks, right, and valleys. So that was interesting to me. So when the crowd gets to this hysteria of madness, I felt like, okay, I don't want it to sound like music anymore. It's almost like this electronic thing is just kind of gurgling or long, and the orchestra's playing these washes of sound, and it's almost as if civilization itself and civility is just kind of being ripped apart. We're just ripping it all apart. And that's a feeling, I mean, that's what's interesting to me about film is like how you take these ideas that are so much in the film. I mean, Fritz Lang made this 100 years ago. It's right there. But how do you dissect that emotion? And somehow, and this is the fun of doing it for our generation, for our time, how do you take those emotions and make them feel visceral and direct and really pertinent to us as listeners in our century?
Were there any other parts of the film you found difficult to score?
Well, it's funny, all of it. I mean, the thing about silent movies and all the answer to that is silent movies exist on a different type of a time frame. They take their time. I mean, when you look at the way a modern film is cut, I mean, there's a certain tempo to which the scenes flow. And movies of the silent era, they pace themselves differently. So a lot of times there was a compositional challenge in the fact that certain scenes they go on longer than a scene in a contemporary film. There was a wonderful way in which I felt a challenge to compositionally really tell that story over the time frame to which they were allotted. A great example, I'll tell you, one of the really trickiest scenes is in the first half, after the explosion happens, and then Frater goes to visit his father at what is like the command center. And it's really a scene which really only exists to move the plot forward, to be honest with you. It goes on for 20 minutes. I mean, in a modern film, that scene probably would have been about 4 or 5 minutes at the most, right? This is 20 minutes, but it's really interesting. But Fritz Lang takes his time. He lets you really feel this connection between the father and son. He really lets you feel the betrayal and the sadness when this man is fired who has sort of let things slide. So he takes this time with all these beats. I did some test screenings for people, and it was really helpful because I wanted to get real feedback from people on what felt like it was dragging, what was getting people a little frustrated. And I spent a lot of time, especially I would say on that first hour, which is a lot of setup. I think that was the trickiest part in terms of keeping you in there, because it is an exposition, but it's really fascinating. But you don't want to make it feel like people are just looking at their watches. You want to just keep them gripped and completely just, wow, you can't take your eyes away.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to do with a movie that takes as much time as it does, as Metropolis takes.
Yes, I remember seeing Phantom of the Opera with Roy Buzzgall being played the picture, Coliseum, London, and during the performance completely forgetting that the music was being played live. It was that engrossing watching the performance.
Which is okay. I mean, that's kind of the fun of it. You want people to get lost in the movie, but I think one of the nice things about the pacing is that with these pieces, you can sort of take a moment, like, oh, okay, step out of it for a second and look at the stage or just think about it. So there are ways in which I think as a viewer, I love these projects because in a way it's sort of a concert, really. You're listening to a concert plus a film. So it's almost like this. It's a different type of an equation, even than seeing a modern Hollywood film, for example, live to picture, because those things just go, go, go. The pacing's different. It's a little different type of a journey for the audience, I think.
Well, you've done 3 of these German silent films, and I'm sure you've enjoyed them. If another classic silent film came up, would I do another one if it was you roles?
Yeah, I think so. I think I want to see how Metropolis does, 'cause it's a lot of work
Mm.
doing these. But I do really feel like this is an area of concerts and productions that I think could really continue to be a staple of the concert hall. I think part of one of the things that's happening is we're sort of at an inflection point where asking ourselves, what is a symphony orchestra concert? What is an experience in a concert hall? And there's many answers to that question. One of the things we love is sort of obviously the literature from the past several hundred years, which is not going away. It's amazing music, but I think in terms of ways to experience the sound of a live orchestra, this is something that I would like to do more of. I'll tell you, there's another great film, Pandora's Box. Somebody suggested that to me a while ago, and it's really the film around the play around which Alvin Berg wrote Lulu, and that's an amazing film. It's psychological. It's great characters. So there's quite a few of these. I love Buster Keaton too, having done The General. After doing all these serious, darker German films, it might be fun just to do another fun comedy. I think Buster Keaton is one of my favorites, just because I think his acting. The first one I did was The General. That was even before I did Sunrise, and Buster Keaton has this way. I think he translates well to a modern audience because he looks like an everyman. He doesn't have sort of, I love, as great as Chaplin is. He seems very much a product of his time with the
Yeah.
the mustache and the hat and everything and the cane. Buster Keaton is something that translates I think, in a very interesting way. I remember I did The General around the time I was doing Monk, and I saw a lot of connection between the deadpan comic genius of Buster Keaton and the comic genius and physicality of Tony Shalhoub and Monk. You can draw a line between those two traditions that's very clear to me.
Now, you've just recorded the soundtrack album, I've been told. How long will the soundtrack album be when it comes out? Will it be released digitally or CD set, or what's the
I
plan?
hope both. I hope both, because I think this is something people are going to want to collect. And I have yet to decide if it's just going to be the whole score, which is obviously 2 hours and 25 minutes. But I'm very excited. We have a wonderful recording, and it will be released as a standalone soundtrack, probably digital and physical, I'm hoping for. And also, it'll be released digitally along with the film itself. The Murnau Foundation, who controls the rights to Metropolis, came to my session, and we had a wonderful meeting, and they're very excited. They're working on a 4K restoration of this film, which I think I premiered a 4K version of Dr. Caligari in Carnegie Hall in 2024, and it's really amazing when you see what a 4K version can do over a 2K version in terms of the clarity. You can see we have an issue with Metropolis where there's this footage that was discovered in South America, which really adds to the completeness of Fritz Lang's vision, but it's not of the same quality as the master print, which is mostly what we have. So I know we're hoping that South American footage, I think it came from Brazil, or Argentina, can be further enhanced so that maybe the visual aspect of it is a little more seamless. But yeah, so the idea that next year for the 100-year anniversary, we'll release this recording. And we'll also be able to come to a concert in the hall and see it, but if not, digitally or on Blu-ray, and watch this new score.
Where was the score recorded for the album?
One of the original partners in this project was the MDR Orchestra in Leipzig, Germany. Fantastic radio orchestra. So we made the recording with them. I'm hoping that we'll also do a performance. I can't announce it because it's not confirmed yet. We're working on plans to do a live performance with the MDR as well in Germany in 2027. And as soon as we have the specifics about that, you'll be the first one to know.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to hear the music of Metropolis. It sounds absolutely amazing. I do enjoy listening to. So I'll be waiting with real interest to listen to and enjoy your music for that. It sounds absolutely excellent.
Oh, I got a live one here.
For years, Cinematic Sound Radio has been known as a podcast, but this is something different. A return to its roots with live radio. Sort of. Cinematic Sound Radio is now on Twitch and is one of the first live streams dedicated entirely to film, television, and video game music. Every broadcast is an all-request show, shaped in real time by you, the listener. Cinematic Sound Radio is streaming live every Thursday and Sunday on Twitch. You pick 'em, we play 'em.
On the air and streaming on the web since 1996, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Now let's talk about now a more conventional score, complete contrast to Metropolis, the Peacock miniseries All Her Fault. Tell us about your work on All Her Fault.
Yes. Well, this was a show starring Sarah Snook. It is, on one level, it's kind of like a Hitchcockian thriller mystery. Her son, in the first episode, goes missing. She shows up at a house where she thinks her son is having a play date, and she learns that he's not there. In fact, the address he was given has nothing to do with the person that texted her. So immediately, this mother is thrown into crisis, into suspense. It's every parent's worst nightmare, of course, to have a child go missing. The title is ironic in the sense that Sarah Snook's character has a lot of emotions, but one of them is guilt, because she feels like maybe if she had been just a little more vigilant about checking the number of this person who had just texted her, she never spoke to this person on the phone, she could have prevented this from happening. That's an understandable human element, but over 8 episodes, there's so many plot twists and surprises, but by the end of the show, what you think is a more conventional mystery thriller turns out to be completely many factors of beyond what a traditional thriller would be. And so it was really, really fun to write. I love these type of shows where you have great performances, very big emotional beats, and some really great acting. And I guess for lack of a better comparison, I'd say it's not unlike, what I was able to do with House of Cards, for example, where you had this sort of interesting show where you have these people who were very much flawed in a lot of ways. I think House of Cards explored the darker sides of politics, and I think All Her Fault explores the moral gray areas of humans, the way in which we make decisions that are maybe understandable and we can justify, but at the end of the day, maybe have really important consequences, which can be devastating. So it's tragic, relatable, but also at the end of the day, sort of gut-wrenching. What we can do as humans to ourselves and to other people.
Now, listening to the score, I noticed it was at times, very string orientated. There's a lot of really lovely string passages in the score. How big was the string section, and was it recorded remotely and sort of separate from the rest of the orchestra?
Yeah, I actually recorded this in my studio in New York City. I am obsessed with recording. I love it. It was a very small group. It was 11 players. We doubled each cue, but there's no samples. It's all just the real players. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think it created a really wonderful sense of emotional scale, and also combined with the other elements which weren't real, whatever that means. Everything else was digital performed. Yeah.
Was the complete score to It's Her Fault recorded in your studio in
Yeah.
is it New York? What was the full instrumentation of the score? Apart from the strings.
Yeah. Yeah. Piano. There was a sort of a low bass. I wanted to have the feeling that Sarah Snook's character there was a bit of nausea to what was happening to her. So there's sort of low bass that sometimes comes in and rumbles. There's quite a bit of percussion. And then there's a boy soprano that has some haunting themes, which I wanted something that related to sort of the sound of her son who's missing. There's quite a bit of that type of thing, some harp. And then there was another side that was more investigative and a little more of like the underworld of criminality, I would call it. So there was also some edgier, grittier sounds like electric guitars or drums or electric bass. There's some electronics, which sort of felt more evocative of the city, the underworld, the mystery, that kind of thing.
Did producers have any say in the music they wanted to hear on the score? Was it was it a collaborative effort with the producers of the series, the score? Were you given a lot of free rein?
Yeah, it's always a collaboration. I mean, I think I was hired quite late, so I think this was a show where they knew they hadn't found what the music was going to be. And so we were trying to discover it. I think it was a hard show to put temp music in. Some of the temp music was really good, but some of the temp music in the earlier parts of the episodes, I felt was way too cold. You weren't connected. So this is where the strings were really helpful to me, because even though these feelings are intense, and the sense was that you really wanted to believe the personal devastation of Sarah Snook's character. You didn't want to just make it completely cold. There is an emotional ache to what is happening. So I was really trying to walk the line constantly between really creating this sense of cold, thriller, darkness, but also creating a more emotionally present sort of space. This is a tragedy which is very personal, intensely, intimately devastating. So I like studying actors and really supporting actors, and really this is a show that is driven by the acting. So I think one of the things that was really missing, it was hard to create, especially in the early episodes, was music that really felt like it got to that heart of the emotion.
It's an 8-part miniseries. Did you score it chronologically, and how much on the score did you write for the entire series?
You know, I want to say at least 4 hours probably of music. There's at least 30 minutes per episode, sometimes more. There was a lot of music. Yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Yes, and I've listened to your score album, and it's a really excellent score. It really does enhance the series in a Hitchcockian way, as you were saying. And in watching the series, adds to the tension on screen. Your music is making a difference in viewing of the series. Really, really enjoy
Oh, well,
it.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Now,
Indeed.
after you finish with Metropolis, what is next on the horizon for Jeff Beal?
Well, a couple things.
If you could tell us.
Wow, isn't that enough?
Yeah.
I feel a little overwhelmed. Well, I am working on some classical pieces. I'm writing an opera, and I'm also finishing a saxophone concerto for Branford and Marcellus, which I'm very excited about. I've just released a record of new solo piano etudes called the New York Etudes Volume 2, which has just been out on digital streaming, sheet music. I have a film that just premiered at South by Southwest last month. It's about Rod Serling, the man who created The Twilight Zone. Wonderful
wow.
documentary.
That sounds good.
That was really fun score to do. Very throwback, kind of 50s, 60s Mad Men meets sci-fi. And I'm sure that film will be out sometime in the next year. It's really a wonderful portrait of a real genius writer and creator.
Yes, I know I told you to do a very good documentary with you. I remember you did the Putin interviews is one of your scores.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I featured it on one of my archive shows, in one of the early archive shows. It was a very good score, and I was happy to promote it on my music program.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully I'll be promoting music from your score for Metropolis and It's Her Fault in the very near future. Both scores sound very, very interesting and well worth looking out for, particularly when Metropolis is out there to buy. Jeff Beal, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us today on Talking Soundtracks, and every success in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's been a pleasure.
I do hope you enjoyed my interview with multi-award-winning composer Jeff Beal. What's mentioned here about the soundtrack album to All Our Fault is available digitally on all platforms from Lakeshore Records, and the Talking Soundtracks theme was composed by David Casina. I leave you with another exclusive clip from Jeff Beal's score for Metropolis, due for release on all platforms sometime in 2027. The cue is entitled The Robot Comes Alive. My sincere thanks again to Jeff Beal for joining us today on this edition of Talking Soundtracks on the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast. And until we meet again, for me, Jason Drury, is take care and happy listening.
Thank you for listening to the Cinematic Sound Radio Podcast. I want to thank Tim Burton for providing his voice for all the bumpers you hear throughout the program, and to David Casina for providing Cinematic Sound Radio's theme music. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And wherever you're listening to us today, please take a moment right now to leave us a rating and a review of the podcast. You can get a Cinematic Sound Radio t-shirt at our TeePublic store. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/cinematicsoundradio. And don't forget to check us out on the web at cinematicsound.net.